European Union which is taking away our democracy because we can't vote directly for the government in Europe has already, it seems, taken away our democracy because our own elected members of parliament are no longer democratically inclined. They choose to dishonour now by pretending that this is not a constitution, which is what they promised us a referendum on, but it's just a treaty. And all the European leaders are saying that it is really the constitution. They've just changed a few words. They've made some cosmetic changes so that they don't have to give us a referendum, because they promised us a referendum on the constitution, but if they call it a treaty, then they don't have to give us a vote.
In 2005, this constitution was voted down in a few countries around Europe. In the UK, the voters were promised a referendum. And after now, a year and a half, 2 years, the same document has been brought back. And now the politicians here are trying to go back on that promise and just put it through Parliament through a simple vote. And all the people in the background has been here through the day and just reminded them that when politicians say something, they should also stick to it.
It's not just Eurosceptics who claim that the Lisbon Treaty is a virtual rerun of the failed constitution of 2005. The European political elite also admit that they are practically the same document. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has admitted the similarities, as has former Irish Taoiseach Bertie Ahern. They are not isolated in their opinions. European politicians and the EU hierarchy also admit that the European Union is using the majority of the failed constitution and have placed it inside a treaty to bypass referendums, making it impossible for the citizens of Europe to have a say. Gordon Brown has on numerous occasions promised a referendum on the document. First in 2004. Then in 2005. Also in 2007. However, during a court case brought against Gordon Brown by businessman Stuart Wheeler, he audaciously admitted we shouldn't believe what politicians promise us. Nick Clegg, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, was also an advocate of giving the people a referendum on the EU Constitution. This changed when it came to a vote in the House of Commons on a nationwide referendum on the Lisbon Treaty. Nick Clegg's cojones seemed to vanish as he ordered his MPs to either abstain or vote against allowing the public a vote. Tony Blair promised the public a referendum shortly after coming to power. His opinion changed in 2003. His party, however, promised a referendum in their election manifesto in 2005. He is currently a front-runner for the position of EU President. His pro-European outlook is a far cry from his views he held as a fledgling politician. Luxembourg Prime Minister Jean-Claude Juncker is also a leading contender for EU President. His comments should be very worrying for anyone who believes that Western European countries are still democracies. There are many other European politicians who admit to the similarities of the documents. Even the Labour-led European Select Committee have spoken out over its similarities. Valéry Giscard d'Estaing was the author of the failed constitution. I find this next quote very worrying. Gerhard Schröder, the former German Chancellor, is certainly someone who would like all countries to give up their sovereignty. French President Nicolas Sarkozy knows that the general public of the European countries would vote no in a referendum on the Lisbon Treaty. But admits that a politically united Europe has been the plan all along. Jean Monnet, one of the founding fathers of the EU, alongside Robert Schuman, once stated in a letter to a friend that this was the hidden goal. This is precisely what has happened. With each passing treaty, the public of every member state have been told that it was for trade purposes, and with each step the EU power grab has been further reaching as the sovereignty of each country has been weakened by each treaty. In my opinion, Edward Heath sums up the history of the EU in these two quotes. Personally, I prefer this quote from another former Prime Minister.